Have you noticed that somewhere along the way, being busy became a badge of honour? We live in a world where rushing is often celebrated, where packed schedules are worn like a status symbol, and where doing more somehow became confused with living well. But what if the very thing you think is helping you get ahead is actually the thing keeping you stuck? Recently, I ran a personal experiment. For 30 days, I consciously embraced the art of slowness. Not laziness and not avoidance. And, it wasn't about doing nothing. It was more about intentional slowness. No panic working, no forcing or pushing. No rushing from one thing to the next simply because I felt I should or I ought or I could, or someone's waiting for this or that. And what happened surprised me. Not only did I feel calmer and sleep better, but I actually became more focused, more productive because I was more focused, and far more creative. Which raises an interesting question. What if the opposite of hustle isn't laziness? And I thought about it. What if the opposite of hustle is intentionality? Welcome to No Fluff Spirituality. I'm Barsha Meyer, and this is exactly the kind of grounded conversation we'll be having here. Let's dive in. I've noticed a lot of conversations this year around the year of the horse, 2026, the fire horse. Many interpretations seem to focus on movement. Oh, we can get going, go, go, go. This is the year, this is the year. Push harder, move faster, gallop towards your goals. Get on that white stallion and ride into the sunset. And while there's certainly a place for action, I totally agree. I found myself reflecting on horses very differently. When I think of a horse, I don't just think of speed. I think of presence, grace, graciousness, sensitivity, sensibility, power under control. But also it's about good control, not controlling. That's how I like to look at it. A horse doesn't waste energy. Have you noticed? It responds. It doesn't spend its day frantically proving itself. It's simply there, majestic being, sentient being. It moves when movement is required. And perhaps there is something in that wisdom for all of us, because many of us have become so accustomed to constant motion that we rarely stop to ask whether all that movement is actually taking us to where we want to go. How? Let's talk about why this matters now. When we're constantly rushing, our nervous system interprets life as one long emergency. Can you relate to that? The body releases stress hormones. Yes, I'm sure we all know about that. The mind becomes reactive, and often we lose access to perspective. And ironically, the more pressure we place on ourselves, the harder it becomes to access creativity, clarity, and good decision-making. Many people think slowing down means they'll achieve less. Yet often the opposite happens. When your nervous system settles, your thinking becomes clearer. You notice things you've been missing. You become more intentional. You stop leaking energy from that leaky bucket, leaking into 10 different directions or more. Some of the best ideas I've ever had didn't arrive when I was pushing harder. They arrived when I finally stopped, or actually, I didn't give up, I gave in. There's a difference. It's like a letting go. I just handed it over, let go. When I gave myself space and when I slowed down enough to hear myself think. This is exactly what I experienced during my 30-day experiment. I deliberately stopped sprinting through my days, ticking the boxes of my endless to-do lists, being a highly creative and motivated. I began moving more consciously, more deliberately, more slowly. And the first thing I noticed was physical. I slept better, I felt calmer. The constant underlying buzz of pressure began to soften. But what really surprised me was what happened to my work and life and creativity. My focus sharpened. I completed more meaningful projects. The quality of my thinking improved. New ideas came flooding in that were really tangible. And because I wasn't scattering my energy everywhere, we as women are so good at multitasking, the things I did choose to focus on carried more impact. But I want to be completely honest. The hardest part wasn't changing my schedule. The hardest part was managing my mind. Because when you slow down, something interesting happens. The noise quietens. And suddenly you hear all the fears that busyness was helping you avoid, right? What if I'm falling behind? What if my designer's not getting the brief for another couple of days? What if I'm not doing enough? What if everyone else is waiting on me? Or, they've moved ahead in the program I'm in. What if I should be working harder? For me personally, the breakthrough wasn't simply slowing down. The breakthrough was learning to love myself through the discomfort of slowing down. Instead of beating myself up, instead of making myself wrong, instead of forcing myself back into perhaps old patterns. I chose compassion, self-compassion, and I chose trust. And that changed everything for me. So how might you begin exploring this for yourself? Here are 3 simple experiments. The first is what I call creating blank space. Blank space, white canvas, blanco. Look at your day and remove one thing that feels urgent but isn't truly important. It can wait. Then use that reclaimed time for something, nothing productive. No phone, no podcast, no multitasking, simply space. The second is a gentle audit. Look at your upcoming week and ask yourself, where am I saying yes out of guilt, obligation, habit, or a bit of fear? And where would a respectful no create more space for what truly matters? And do remind yourself, I am safe to slow down right now. I am safe to slow down right now. You may be surprised how powerful that simple practice can be. Before we finish, there's one more piece to this conversation. Trust. Because it's very difficult to slow down if you do not trust. And I get it, trust looks different for everyone. For some people it's prayer. For others it's meditation. For others it's nature. For others it's a deep inner knowing that what is meant for them will not pass them by. Like that inner knowingness. Whatever form it takes, trust allows us to release the illusion that we must force everything into existence. It also reminds us that life is not always responding to how hard we push. Sometimes it responds to how present we are. If you've enjoyed these conversations and would like to stay connected, you'll find links in the show notes below. And if this episode resonated, I'd be grateful if you subscribed so you don't miss future conversations. I'll leave you with this thought. Perhaps the question isn't, how can I do more? Perhaps the reflection is, what might become possible if I stopped rushing through my life long enough to actually notice it? Maybe slow isn't the opposite of success. Maybe slow is the path back to yourself. Slow is the new sexy. This is No Fluff Spirituality, business, life and spirit for the new era. Grounded, clear, real. I'm Basha Maya, and I will see you next week.